Prime Minister Narendra Modi greets His Holiness Dalai Lama on his 86th birthday on a telephone call. Says he wishes him a long and healthy life. Italy and Spain to face off in the first semi-final match at Wembley today. This is the 7th European Championship meeting, 4th consecutive tournament. The two nations meet in the knockout stages. And let's begin with the big news we're following at this hour. President Ramnath Kovind made few transfers and appointments today, which will take effect from the dates the incumbents assume charge of their respective offices. Union Minister Thawarchand Gehlot has been appointed as the Governor of Karnataka. Besides, the Governor of Mizoram, P.S. Siridharan Pillai, has now been appointed as the Governor of Goa. Governor of Haryana, Satyadev Narayan Arya, is transferred and appointed as Governor of Tripura. Ramesh Bes as the Governor of Tripura has been transferred and appointed as Governor of Jharkhand. Bandarao Dattarai, the Governor of Himachal Pradesh, is transferred and appointed as Governor of Haryana. Dr. Haribabu Kambampati has been appointed as the Governor of Mizoram. Mangubai Chaganbhai Patel has been appointed as the Governor of Madhya Pradesh. And Rajendra Vishwanath Arlekar has been appointed as the Governor of Himachal Pradesh. And Union Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment Thawarchand Gehlot expressed happiness at being appointed the Governor of Karnataka.
मुझे कर्नाटक का राज्यपाल नियुक्त किया है। मैं उनकी इच्छा आकांक्षा पर खरा उतरने का प्रयास करूंगा और राज्यपाल के दायित्वों का कर्तव्यनिष्ठा और ईमानदारी से कठोर परिश्रम करके दायित्व निर्वहन करूंगा। जो भी बातें सामने आएगी उनको संवैधानिक मर्यादाओं में विचार विमर्श करके हल करने का प्रयास उस समय करता रहूंगा।
On the second day of the two-day monsoon session of Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, BJP MLAs staged a protest on the steps of the Vidhan Sabha against suspension of 12 of its legislators. BJP members raised slogans against the government and also condemned its inaction in providing reservation to OBC and Maratha community. And for more on that story, my colleague Shishir Shallar joins us from Mumbai. Shishir, first of all, we understand that there is a parallel assembly going on outside the assembly where the two-day session is going on. Update us on those developments.
Well, absolutely, Amrit. Today is the concluding day of the two-day assembly session that was started yesterday. Since yesterday, we have seen here that the BJP, that is the opposition, and the MVA government actually on the loggerhead. There had been heated arguments on several issues in the House. Later on, we have seen that the House was adjourned several times yesterday. Well, on the issue of OBC reservation, some of the members of the BJP actually came into the veil and started raising the slogans here. Ultimately, the speakers in the chair adjourned the House for a few minutes here. Later on, some of the members from the opposition and some of the members from the government party also went into the speaker chambers here. And speaker chamber also, we have seen here that the slogan were raised here. The state government later on took a decision and have suspended 12 MLAs of BJP. Now this has irked BJP because obviously BJP said that during this entire yesterday's show, BJP is not just the only party involved here. Even members from the government ruling party were also involved. But in spite of that, the speaker have not taken any action against MLAs from the ruling party here. And that's why the BJP said that they are not getting a proper time and are not getting proper space to speak in the house itself. That's the reason today morning, today being the last day here, when we came here, the BJP looked quite aggressive. They took up this decision that they will not attend the house, but they will start a parallel assembly just outside the Mumbai Vidhan Bhavan. And to show these visuals here, that all the opposition parties, the BJP MLAs, have already gathered at the media gallery here, and right now they are addressing a parallel assembly at the Vidhan Bhavan. Well, in the morning they have started this assembly session on the steps of Vidhan Bhavan, but later on the government gave order to marshals to remove them from the Vidhan Sabha steps. Ultimately, the opposition took a decision that they will carry on this parallel assembly at the media center here, at the media gallery at the Vidhan Bhavan, and we have seen here that a speaker has been appointed by the opposition party here. A speaker is there on the chair. Apart from that, the other members of the BJP is also sitting there. Now, the most important fact is that the BJP is saying that they are not getting space and time to speak and raise the issues which is quite important for the Maharashtra, and that's the reason they are raising those issues here. Issues pertaining to the farmers' plight, issues pertaining to the COVID situation in the state, and the issues related to the Maratha and the OBC political reservation. These are some of the hot topics in the Maharashtra political scenario here. These points and these issues need to be discussed in academic way, and that's the reason opposition wanted that this issue should be addressed in the House. But obviously, the state government have already given an order stating that no other legislative tool can be used. For example, there will be no question answer session, there will be no calling attention motion, there will be no adjournment motion also in the House. Only the issues which have been tabled are already prescribed in the entire format here. Only those issues will be discussed in the House, and that's the reason the opposition said that there are so many issues to discuss, but in spite of that, government has not allowed them to speak, and that's the reason this parallel assembly they have organized outside Vidhan Bhavan.
So if there's a parallel assembly, Shishir, as the BJP is doing, what really transpired or what was achieved in these 2 days of the session which concludes today?
Well, absolutely, Amrit. There are actually so many issues in the table that's supposed to be discussed in the House here. But because of the opposition party's tough stand and the government tough stands here, that we have seen here that the opposition is actually carrying out the parallel session at the same time. House is also operational at this point in time. Various bills have been discussed inside, and the most important, the supplementary demands, supplementary demands to the tune of 23,000 crore have already been passed here with the voice cast inside the House. Okay. So the proceedings is already going on inside the House without opposition, and the opposition is also raising their voice on various issues outside the Vidhan Bhavan. That is a parallel session that is going on right now.
Okay, and amidst all this political drama, Shishir, what do your sources tell? What is the thinking in the government? What is the speaker thinking? What effect has it had on the government? What is going on outside the assembly?
Well, absolutely, none of the parties are in the mood to listen to anyone, and that's the reason even the government is not listening. They're not coming one step back here. At the same time, even the opposition have said that they're quite aggressive. Today they've started a blistering attack on the government, and as a result we have seen here a parallel assembly session still going on at the Vidhan Bhavan here. Obviously, so both the parties are quite firm on their stand. Now obviously when we talk about the assembly session, there has to be academic discussion in the House also, and then only some of the fruitful discussions and the decisions come out. But now we have seen here that the opposition and the government is at loggerhead. Many issues are still pending. The government is doing their work and carrying out all the bills which have been pending here, at the same time supplementary demand, and because of the BJP is not getting the time and space inside the House, they are actually raising the House outside the assembly. And obviously, so when we see this kind of situation between both the parties, it's quite difficult also to carry out the work here. But it seems that government is in no mood to take a back step.
All right, Shishir, you keep a watch on the political drama unfolding. We'll keep coming back to you through the day. Many thanks for joining us for the moment and giving us this update. Thank you. And a special PMLA court in Mumbai today granted judicial custody to Sanjeev Palande and Kundan Shinde till July 20th in the money laundering case involving former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. Palande was the personal secretary to Deshmukh, while Shinde was his personal assistant. The ED had submitted in the special court that both were actively involved in money laundering and took help from Hawala racketeers in Delhi. However, the agency is yet to question Anil Deshmukh because he has skipped all 3 summons issued by the agency so far. Meanwhile, Anil Deshmukh's son has been asked to appear before the agency today. And moving on to our national prime segment now. India continues to see a decline in the COVID-19 cases. The country has registered 35.75 crore vaccine doses which have been administered so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. 34,703 daily new cases in the last 24 hours were reported, which is the lowest in 111 days. India's active caseload has declined to 4,64,357, which is the lowest in 101 days. Active cases constitute 1.52% of the total cases. Over 2.97 crore recoveries have been recorded so far across the country, out of which over 51,864 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. With this, the daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 54th consecutive day. Also, the recovery rate has increased to 97.17%. Weekly positivity rate continues to remain below 5% and currently stands at 2.4%. Daily positivity rate currently stands at 2.11%, which is less than 3% for 15 consecutive days. Testing capacity substantially ramped up with 42.14 crore tests conducted so far. A decline in the second wave numbers accelerates the unlocking process in states. In Goa, restaurants and bars will be allowed to function to 50% seating capacity between 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. after 2 months. The Goan government extended the COVID curfew for another week till July 12th while allowing several relaxations. The move comes as a respite for the restaurant and bar owners, as these were prohibited for 2 months due to a surge in the COVID-19 cases. Shops and malls will be allowed to open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Salons and other outdoor sports complexes and stadiums are also allowed to open. Educational institutions, cinema halls, auditoria, casinos, gyms, spas, indoor sports complexes will, however, remain closed. Visitors will not be allowed at religious places. The COVID curfew was first imposed on the 9th of May in Goa. And the Delhi High Court has expressed displeasure over Twitter for delaying the appointment of a grievance redressal officer. It has said that Twitter is in defiance of the Indian law for not appointing the grievance redressal officer as necessitated under the new ID rules. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also paid tributes. In a tweet, the Vice President said, and I quote, "My respectful tributes to the visionary statesman and devout patriot Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his birth anniversary today. He was an eminent educationist, humanitarian and above all a campaigner for national unity and integrity. His legendary personality continues to inspire many." And Prime Minister Narendra Modi today remembered the founder of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. On his birth anniversary, the Prime Minister took to Twitter and he said, and I quote, "I bow to Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his Jayanti. His lofty ideals motivate millions across the nation. Dr. Mukherjee devoted his life towards India's unity and progress. He also distinguished himself as a remarkable scholar and intellectual." Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also paid tributes. In a tweet, the Defence Minister said, and I quote, "Paying tributes to the great son of India, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his Jayanti. He was a true nationalist who distinguished himself as an eminent scholar, educationist and reformist. His stellar contribution to India's public life and polity will always be remembered," unquote. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath today paid tributes to Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee on his birth anniversary. He remembered Dr. Mukherjee's contribution towards improvement in education and overall development of the country. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi today had a telephonic conversation with the 14th Dalai Lama on the occasion of his birthday. The Prime Minister said in a tweet, and I quote, spoke on phone to His Holiness the Dalai Lama to convey greetings on his 86th birthday. We wish him a long and healthy life, unquote. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today flagged off COVID relief material for Himachal Pradesh. Addressing the media persons, Rajnath Singh praised the Union Minister Anurag Thakur for fulfilling his social responsibility as a political activist. He added that Anurag Thakur has decided to set up an oxygen bank to cater to the needs of around 1,400 beds in his Hamirpur parliamentary constituency of Himachal Pradesh.
अनुराग ठाकुर ने हिमाचल राज्य में एक ऑक्सीजन बैंक बनाने का फैसला किया है उन्होंने, और इस निमित्त इसके पहले भी आज जो ट्रकें रवाना की गई हैं, जो राहत सामग्री रवाना की गई है, उसके अतिरिक्त भी पहले भी वह हिमाचल प्रदेश के लिए बहुत सारी सामग्री भेज चुके हैं। उनका यह संकल्प है कि हम एक ऑक्सीजन बैंक तैयार करेंगे, और ऑक्सीजन बैंक इतना बड़ा होगा कि कम से कम 1400 बेड को बिल्कुल आसानी से, सुविधाजनक तरीके से ऑक्सीजन मुहैया हो सके। मैं समझता हूं कि कोविड-19 के चैलेंज को मीट आउट करने के लिए एक बहुत ही ये बड़ा प्रयास है। इसकी जितनी भी सराहना की जाए वो कम है।
The Delimitation Commission arrived in Srinagar today on a 4-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir. The commission comprises of Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra and Deputy Election Commissioner Chandra Bhushan. They are meeting with leaders of the national and regional political parties of Jammu and Kashmir. The purpose of this interaction will be to gather first-hand information about the conduct of delimitation exercise to carve out new constituencies in the Union Territory. The Commission will also carve out constituencies for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes for the first time in Jammu and Kashmir. After Srinagar, members of the Delimitation Commission are expected to visit Pahalgam, followed by a visit to Jammu. The members of the Commission will also hold talks with district election officers of Anantnag, Kulgam, Pulwama and Shopian. They will also interact with district election officers from Srinagar, Ganderbal, Badgam, Bandipora, Baramulla and Kupwara. The Delimitation Commission was constituted in March last year and its term was extended by another year in March this year due to the ongoing pandemic. And for more on that story, my colleague Salman Qazi joins me from Srinagar. Salman, first of all, give us a sense of who all are participating when it comes to political parties in this meeting of the Delimitation Commission. Salman, can you hear my voice?
The Delimitation Commission, which will be meeting public representatives in form of political parties, and in fact, this was one of the major points of also all party meeting where Prime Minister had asked that he wants the political participation in the Delimitation Commission. So afterwards, we have seen that most of the political parties from Jammu and Kashmir will be attending this. The only political party has said that it will not stand with representatives to the Delimitation Commission is People's Democratic Party, and they have issued a statement today that not enough groundwork has been done, and they are and basically they have raised the issue that what was done on August 5, 2019 was done unconstitutionally. So except for PDP, all other Commission consultations. The significant obviously will be NC has said that its members will be meeting the Delimitation Commission.
Oh, okay. So, Salman, you're saying that the PDP is staying out, citing that enough groundwork has not been done, and that is why they're sitting out of, they're not attending the Delimitation Commission's meeting, but otherwise they do not have any problem with delimitation exercise per se. Is that so?
No, I think they have in the letter that they have shared with the media. They have said that this is being done to favor a particular region. I think what they are also they basically said that the outcome is predetermined, which is not true, in the sense that the Delimitation Commission would be making its outcomes after a certain process, and they have basically raised the objection that the outcome has been pre-decided, and what the consultations are basically, they are basically just something to show to the media, and not something which has any substantial impact. So definitely that's what PDP has said, and they have shared this in a letter today. But obviously, I think there was also a time NC had not participated in the last meeting. Its associate members in the parliament, because it has 3 members, MPs from Kashmir. They had not attended, but this time I think NC is attending the meeting, and they think that this is the way forward.
Okay, and the meeting, the all-party meeting which the Prime Minister Salman had convened last month, where the PDP, the NC and other political parties had participated. One thought that the consensus there was that let the delimitation process continue, and this should happen quickly at a fast-paced process, after which the next process the process of granting statehood to Jammu and Kashmir, holding as assembly elections would be done. So how is that being perceived, and has that given a fillip? Do you see this meeting of the commission under that fast track process, and how is it being seen, especially in the valley?
There was the meeting, in all-party meeting, which was basically to start the political roadmap for Jammu and Kashmir. The delimitation process, the elections, and then the statehood was was given as a way forward by the union government. And however, the Kashmir-based parties, basically NC, PDP, and which have basically said that they would want that delimitation process be followed immediately by the grant of statehood rather than elections. So there would be some language, but the PDP's letter now has now seems that they are not along with the agenda of the other PADD members, as all other political parties in PADD have decided that they will be attending the meeting, consultation meetings of the Delimitation Commission.
All right, Salman, we leave it there. Many thanks for joining us for the moment and giving us an update on that. Thank you. Moving on, the Supreme Court has refused to intervene against the Odisha government order restricting the Puri Jagannath Rath Yatra to the temple city due to COVID-19 pandemic situation. The bench, led by Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, said that the trajectory of the virus was unpredictable. The plea to permit Rath Yatras in Baripada, Sasang and other cities in the state. Meanwhile, the state government has allowed only rituals in the Puri Jagannath temple and holding of the Rath Yatra within the city. In 2020, the court had lifted its June 18 ban on conduct of Puri Jagannath Rath Yatra after ensuring a complete lack of public attendance for the festival to avoid spread of infection amid the fears of a pandemic. Ministry of Tribal Affairs and the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change today signed a joint communication to further empower the tribal community. The event was aimed at bringing together the states and various departments to ensure early implementation of the Forest Conservation Act. Addressing the event, Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar said that the community forest resource rights must be given to village councils under the Forest Rights Act 2006. He added that the joint communication aims to ensure that all stakeholders work together to ensure proper implementation of the Forest Rights Act.
यह आदिवासी और वनवासियों ने जंगल की रक्षा की है और आज भी कर रहे हैं, और इसलिए यह कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्सेज जो है उसके संरक्षण का, संवर्धन का, जीव वैविधता बढ़ाने का और आजीविका बढ़ाने का, ये चारों काम करने में केवल अधिकारियों की भूमिका नहीं है, वहां की ग्राम सभा की भूमिका भी है। इसलिए फॉरेस्ट का एरिया प्लानिंग भी हो, ग्राम सभा की राय ले, ग्राम सभा के सुझावों को उसमें सम्मिलित करें अपनी एरिया प्लानिंग में।
Javadekar also said that during the Modi government tenure of 7 years, many steps have been taken for upliftment of tribal community. He added that over 4 lakh tribals have benefited by the forest fund.
मोदी सरकार पहले से ही आदिवासी विकास के लिए कमिटेड है। जैसे पिछले 7 साल में 5 लाख आदिवासियों को पट्टे दिए हैं, 25,000 से ज्यादा कमिटियां नई बनी है ग्राम सभाओं की। जो बजट आदिवासी विभाग तक केवल 3800 करोड़ होता था, आज लगभग दुगुना होते हुए 7,200 करोड़ हो गया है। वनधन योजना का लाभ 4 लाख आदिवासियों को मिला है और 18,000 सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स तैयार हुए हैं।
At the event, Union Tribal Affairs Minister Arjun Munda said that the issue of forest and its conservation has been talked about a lot, but welfare of tribal living there has often been ignored. He added that tribal community cannot be separated from their natural habitation.
जनजातीय लोगों के लिए वन न केवल एक घर है, बल्कि एक सामुदायिक जीवन का एक सांस्कृतिक और आध्यात्मिक हिस्सा है। जनजातीय समुदाय ने समय के साथ साथ प्रकृति के तरीकों के अनुरूप और संयोजन में जीवन जीने के अपने ढंग को विकसित किया है और प्रकृति के साथ एक में तारतम्यता, सामंजस्यता होकर जीवन जीना सीखा है। उन्हें इससे जो नैसर्गिक व्यवस्था है उससे अलग नहीं किया जा सकता है।
And the flood situation has worsened again in Bihar. Gandak, Buri, Gandak and Bagmati rivers and the tributaries are flowing above the danger mark in Champaran and adjoining areas. While high water levels of rivers has also affected people living in low-lying areas of Simanchal, including Katihar, Purnia, Kishanganj. However, Ganga River is currently flowing below the danger mark. The Met Department has sounded yellow alert for the next 2 days. Meanwhile, train operations on the Kaparpura Nar Katiaganj rail section has come to a complete standstill for the second day today due to water logging of river Sikrahana on bridge number 248 between Sagodi and Majolia stations of Samastipur Railway Division of the Eastern Central Railway. And for more on that story, I'm joined by my colleague Salman Haider, who joins us from Patna on the story. Salman, give us a sense of what exactly is the situation right now as far as the rivers in Spate goes, and also what is the rain situation right now in the state?
Actually, Amrit, the situation is grim in the flow course of Bagmati, Gandak and Buri Gandak rivers. So along the area where these rivers are and its tributaries, the situation is really grim in the low-lying areas. Further, the flood situation in Gopalganj has somewhat improved now due to lesser discharge from Gandak barrage, but dozens of villages of Sadar and Majha blocks of the district are in the grip of flood. the roads are full of water, and as you already said, rail communication has been somewhat disrupted in Samastipur and other adjoining areas. Bagmati and Kosi rivers are above the danger mark in Khagadia district, and erosion is also taking place from Masang river in Betia, that is West Champaran, and the officials have investigated and inspected the damage caused to the guide dam of Dhanrapa village in Ramnagar block of the district. So the Gandak river is slightly above the danger mark at Riva Ghat in Muzaffarpur, and the Buri Gandak and Bagmati are also flowing above the danger mark, and the Katra block is worst affected in Muzaffarpur, where 7 panchayats in all have been affected. 5 are partially affected, while 2 are completely submerged. So this is the situation right now, and rain has not occurred in India side, but in Nepal, the catchment area of the Gandak has received very heavy rainfall during past 1 week. So the situation is somewhat still grim here. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Salman, for that. You keep a watch on the situation. We'll keep coming back to you through the day. Thank you for the moment. And the National Tiger Conservation Conservation Mission has moved well. We'll tell you in a while what has happened. The National Tiger Conservation Authority, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has approved the conversion of the Ramgarh Vishdhari Sanctuary in Rajasthan's Bundi district into the 4th tiger reserve in the state. According to a 2018 tiger census, there are 102 tigers in 3 reserves: Ranthambore Tiger Reserve and Savai Madhopur, Sariska Tiger Reserve in Alwar, and the Mukundra Hills Tiger Reserve in Kota in the state. The proposal for converting the Ramgarh Vishdhari Sanctuary, which is spread across 1,071 square kilometers, into a tiger reserve was recently approved by the National Tiger Conservation Authority's Technical Committee.
The Conservation Authority has approved a proposal received from the government of Rajasthan to declare Ramgarh Vishdhari Wildlife Sanctuary as a tiger reserve. This proposed tiger reserve has an area of around 1,000 square kilometers, and it's a very important habitat adjoining to Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, because this will provide shelter to the dispersing tigers of Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. I am sure that this newly created tiger reserve will provide a lot of opportunities for the ecotourism and employment to the local people.
And in Midday Prime, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. And my colleague Tanvi Taneja joins me for more on that. Tanvi, give us a sense of what's happening in the world of business and markets.
Yes. Thank you, Amrit. The domestic stock markets have gained some ground, with the Sensex crossing the 53,000 mark on Tuesday. So the Sensex at the BSE had climbed 150 points, or 0.3% to 53,026 in afternoon deals a little while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had advanced 27 points, or 0.2% to 15,861. Talking about the broader market, the BSE mid-cap index had added 0.9% and the small-cap index had moved up 0.6%. The top index gainers are Bajaj Finance, Ultratech Cements, Bajaj Finserv, HDFC Bank and Tata Steel, with gains of between 1.1 and 4.3%. The top index losers in afternoon deals are Tech Mahindra, TCS, Nestle and NTPC, with losses of between 0.8% and 2%. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has increased the capacity of domestic civil aviation operations from the existing capacity of 50% to 65%. The ministry took the decision in this regard after reviewing the current status of the scheduled domestic operations as per the increasing passengers' demand for domestic air travel. The ministry in a tweet said that the order issued in this regard will be applicable up to 31st of this month or until further orders, whichever is earlier. Meanwhile, share prices of Interglobe Aviation, that is Indigo, and SpiceJet Airlines gained over 2% each in the morning session on Tuesday after Centre allowed domestic airlines to operate at 65% passenger capacity. Elsewhere in Asia, key stock markets were mixed on Tuesday as concerns over the future of China's powerful technology sector weighed down shares. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was down 0.1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index had shed 0.2%, marking its 6th day of losses, while China's Shanghai Composite Index had lost 0.1% to an almost 2-month low. But Japan's Nikkei 225 index was up 0.2% and South Korea's Kospi had added 0.4%. Back home at the Forex market, the rupee had strengthened 6 paise against the US dollar in early trade on Tuesday, tracking a weak dollar in the overseas market. But later, the rupee depreciated 11 paise to 74 rupees 41 paise against the dollar in afternoon deals a short while ago. At the multi-commodity exchange, gold had gained 441 rupees to 47,740 rupees per 10 grams. Silver had climbed 572 rupees to 70,661 rupees per kilo. And global crude oil prices rose to hit 2018 highs after OPEC plus discussions were called off, heightening expectations that supply will tighten further just as global fuel demand recovers from a COVID-19 induced slump. So Brent crude climbed 18 cents or 0.2% to $77.34 a barrel. US crude had gained $1.41 or 1.9% to $76.57 a barrel. Crude oil buyers in Asia are also concerned that an unexpected cancellation of an OPEC plus meeting to discuss a rise in output could drive oil prices even higher and hurt their margins. So with that, we wrap our segment Business Prime. Back to you, Amrit.
Well, thank you, Tanvi, for that. And let's now take a look at what's making news across the globe. A quick look at the COVID-19 numbers stack up across the world. More than 18 crore 49 lakh people have been infected with the COVID-19 virus so far. The recoveries have crossed the 16 crore 92 lakh mark. The disease has claimed over 40 lakh lives globally. The US has been the worst affected country with more than 3 crore 45 lakh total infections. The country's fatalities stand at more than 6 lakh 21,000 from the pandemic. And Bangladesh continues to battle with the surging cases of COVID-19 in the country as it reported the highest number of deaths and fresh infections in a single day on Monday. According to the latest figures, 164 people died and 9,964 people were infected in the last 24 hours. With this, the number of infected people in the country is over 9.5 lakhs. In order to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the country, the government of Bangladesh further extended the ongoing strict lockdown by another week till the 14th of July. During the lockdown, all offices, including that of the government, autonomous and private ones, are closed. Motorized vehicles are not allowed to operate except those which are engaged in emergency services and transportation of goods. Public transportation is also suspended in the country. However, factories and industrial units are allowed to open following the health guidelines issued by the government. Meanwhile, the government of Bangladesh has decided to bring down the age of vaccination in the country to 35 years from the current level of 40 years. Mexicans are bracing for a third wave of COVID-19 cases amid fears that an easing of measures to stop the spread of the virus will see new strains take hold. Last month, Mexican officials pushed forward with a lifting of coronavirus measures, reopening schools and permitting restaurants, stadiums and cinemas to boost capacity. COVID-19 cases skyrocketed in some parts of the country, with infections spiked 64% in 3 weeks. Despite the spike in cases, however, deaths and hospitalizations have remained fairly low. The new cases are seen mostly in younger people, and for now, the highly contagious Delta variant has not spread widely in Mexico. With the majority elderly almost fully vaccinated, officials are cautiously optimistic that the worst has passed. However, the Delta variant has been identified in at least a third of the Mexico's states, mostly concentrated in Baja California Sur and Mexico City, according to the Mexican Consortium for Genomic Surveillance. Ivory Coast authorities are gearing up to speed up vaccination process against COVID in the country by sending mobile clinics to markets and other busy areas in its main city, Abidjan. Administering mere 8 lakh doses since March 8, the authorities are now aiming to inoculate 1 million people in Abidjan over the next 10 days. Like many African countries, Ivory Coast has seen vaccinations get off to a slow start due to limited supplies as well as indifference towards the vaccines. But officials say things are picking up thanks to a better communication, including promotions at the local soccer matches. Ivory Coast has received about 1 million doses of AstraZeneca, Pfizer and Sinopharm vaccines to date, and the government says it expects to take delivery of 1.2 million more doses by mid-July. South Sudan is preparing to celebrate 10 years of independence on Friday. The South Sudan won independence from Sudan in 2011 after decades of civil war. Violence erupted in late 2013 after South Sudan's President Salva Kiir sacked Vice President Riek Machar. The conflict displaced around a third of the population, creating the worst refugee crisis in Africa since the Rwandan genocide in 1994. The two men have signed many deals to end the war, estimated to have killed more than 4 lakh people. They repeatedly pushed back deadlines to form a government of national unity, but in 2020 finally did so. Around 150 students are missing after armed men raided a boarding school in Nigeria's Kaduna state. Police said that gunmen shooting wildly attacked the Bethel Baptist High School in the south of Kaduna state overnight. The attack is the 10th mass school kidnapping since December in northwest Nigeria, which authorities have attributed to armed bandits seeking ransom payments. Armed men, known locally as bandits, have made an industry of kidnapping students for ransom in northwest Nigeria, with Kaduna state particularly hard hit. They've taken nearly 1,000 people from schools since December last year, more than 150 of whom remain missing. And in Midday Prime, it's time for stories from the world of sports now. And my colleague Abhishek Mahajan joins us with more on that. Abhishek, tell us what's making news in the world of sports.
Yeah, thanks Amritpal. A lot of stories coming in sports segment. We'll start with football, that is Euro Cup. Italy and Spain go head-to-head in a European Championship knockout game for the 4th tournament in a row, and with a place in the Euro 2020 final against England or Denmark up for grabs. The match will start at 12:30 AM Indian Standard Time tonight. Here's a report.
In Euro, Italy will clash with Spain in the first semi-final at Wembley late tonight. This is the country's 7th meeting in the European Championship, with Spain's only win in the 90 minutes coming in the 2012 final, which they won 4-0. Italy has beaten Spain in the last 16 at the Euro 2016. Italy, who are unbeaten in almost 3 years, have been arguably the most impressive team in Euro 2020 so far. They have won all 3 group games before beating Austria in extra time and then Belgium, the #1 ranked team in the world, 2-1 in the quarterfinals. There are unlikely to be too many fans of either side at the game. Anybody flying from Spain or Italy into England would have to be quarantined, and therefore they will not be able to attend the tournament. Italy defeated Belgium 2-1 in the first quarter-final to extend their unbeaten run to 32 matches. Spain advanced by beating Switzerland 3-1 on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Italy, Spain, Denmark and England have qualified for the semi-finals, which will be held at the Wembley Stadium in London. Sports Desk, DD India.
Right, if you are a football fan, you can't afford to miss this match. We expect a cracker of a game. Moving on to Copa America now. Brazil has entered the final of the Copa America football competition after beating Peru 1-0 in the semi-finals. Brazil's only goal was scored by Lucas Paqueta in the 35th minute of the game. Argentina will face Colombia in the second semi-finals tomorrow. Neymar made the difference on the bumpy pitch of the Nilton Santos Stadium in Rio de Janeiro. The only goal of the match came in the 34th minute after he tricked defender Alexander Calnes on the left edge of the box and assisted Lucas Paqueta, who just pushed the ball to the back of the net. The 23-year-old Paqueta, who started the tournament on the bench, was one of the leading players for Brazil. He constantly received the ball in the middle, easing the pressure on Neymar and also marked with intensity. 2 years ago, Brazil won the title without injured Neymar in a 3-1 win over Peru, and next Saturday's final, which will be played in front of no fans due to COVID-19 pandemic, promises to be more challenging, and Peru will play on Friday in the third place playoff against the loser of Tuesday's semi-finals. Tennis now. Roger Federer extended his dominance at the All England Club on Monday after recording a 7-5, 6-4, 6-2 victory over Lorenzo Sonego to reach his 18th Wimbledon quarterfinals. The 8-time champion became the oldest man in the Open era to reach the last 8 at Wimbledon. Federer needed only 2 hours and 11 minutes at the centre court to outclass 26-year-old Sonego, who went off the boil after posing a stiff fight in the opening set. In another match, top seed Novak Djokovic got the job done on Manic Monday at Wimbledon 2021 when he outclassed Chile's Christian Garin in straight sets to progress to his 50th Grand Slam quarterfinals. This win over Garin put Djokovic at third place on the all-time list for most Wimbledon men's singles quarterfinal appearances. And talking about women's singles now, world number 1 Ashleigh Barty reached the Wimbledon quarterfinals for the first time on Monday, beating French Open champion Barbora Krejcikova of the Czech Republic 7-5, 6-3. And back home, Mana Patel has recently made India's Olympic history by becoming the country's first female swimmer to qualify for Tokyo 2020. The world governing body FINA approved her participation under the universality quota following some strong performances in European meets in the last 3 months. The universality quota allows 1 female and male participant each from a country to take part in the Olympics, provided no other swimmer from the same gender qualifies for the competition through the normal process. The 21-year-old will compete in the women's 100-meter backstroke event, joining men's athletes Sajjan Prakash and Srihari Natarajan to represent India in Japan. Mana said her focus is about gaining Olympic experience and putting her country on the world sporting stage.
I'm very, very thrilled. I'm honored and humbled to represent my country at the Olympics this year. But I believe this is just the beginning for me, and there's a long, long way to go. Many more medals to win for India.
And the Tokyo Olympics, postponed for a year due to COVID-19 pandemic, are scheduled to start on July 23rd. Moving on, the Athletics Federation of India on Monday announced a 26-member team to compete in the Tokyo Olympics. The athletics events at the Olympics start on July 31st and it will run through August 9th. AFI President Adil J. Sumariwala said that the federation is looking forward to a good show by the team. Duti Chand, MP Jabir, Gurpreet Singh in men's 50-kilometer race walk and Anurani women's javelin throw are assured of entries on the strength of their rankings. Formula 1 now, rather disappointing news. The Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix and MotoGP were cancelled for the second successive year on Tuesday because of the border controls in place to keep the novel coronavirus out of the country. The 2020 edition of the Formula 1 race was cancelled at the last minute as the pandemic took hold, and this year's Melbourne round was shifted from its traditional season opening spot to November 21st. Australia's borders are still effectively closed, however, and the requirement for anybody entering to quarantine for 14 days looks set to remain in place until the end of the year at the earliest. Formula 1 Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali expressed his disappointment but said he was confident that a 23-race calendar could be maintained for this season, and MotoGP organizers have moved the Malaysia Grand Prix forward by a week to fill the gap left by the Australian race on October 24th, as well as adding a second Portuguese round, the Algarve Grand Prix, to the calendar on November 7th. Well, that's all we have in sports segment. Back to you, Amritpal.
Well, thank you, Abhishek, for that. And let's now take a look at our next segment, Life Prime, where we bring you stories from the world of art, culture, cinema, fashion, science and innovation. Stories that are bringing smiles, stories that are changing lives. On Tuesday, the Cannes Film Festival, delayed from May to July this year, finally opened its doors for the 74th and maybe the most critical edition. Its famed red carpet will again flood with stars, the screens will be relit, and maybe the movies will rekindle some of the romance and grandeur that went dormant this past pandemic year. India is participating virtually in the festival due to the pandemic.
In the early months of the pandemic, the Palais des Festivals, the main location of the film festival in southern France, had been filled with hospital beds earlier this year. It served as a mass vaccination center, the Vaccinodrome. And now, after being postponed from May to later in the summer in the hopes of having the pandemic under control, the world's most prestigious film festival is taking place from July 6th to 17th, the Cannes. Masks will be mandatory in the entire festival area, along with regular COVID testing. And the festival's director has already announced that he will not be greeting filmmakers and stars with the traditional kisses on the cheeks. But beyond the pandemic, issues such as female representation and climate protection have been making the headlines. The 74th edition of the film festival is taking place from July 6 to 17th with 24 films set to make their debut. The film festival is unveiling films from all over the world, including the US, France, Japan, Morocco, Finland, Russia, Iran and many others.
I want to play this fast.
Brother against brother. Don't wake up. This should be interesting. We got the juice. We come around. We on the loose. Hold on. We are the team.
I spent my entire life in your shadow. And now you spend the rest of yours living in mine.
India is participating in the Cannes Film Market 2021 virtually due to the current pandemic, and the second time India is participating through Virtual India Pavilion. The focus of the event will be celebrating the centenary year of the legendary filmmaker Mr. Satyajit Ray, promoting India as an important shooting destination for the world cinema and co-production between Indian filmmakers and their global counterparts. The focus will also be on celebrating India at 75. The Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Prakash Javadekar, will be inaugurating the Virtual India Pavilion at Cannes Film Market 2021 today. FICCI Secretary General Dilip Chenoy today has congratulated the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting on India's second year of participation in the Cannes Film Festival.
I want to congratulate the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the Minister, the entire Secretary, the team there, for the second consecutive year enabling India's participation at Cannes, even through a virtual board. Indians cannot actually travel there, and therefore this virtual presence is essential to keep continuity and presence in one of the largest film markets of the world. This year is very special as we have two landmark events. The first is beginning the celebrations of 100 years of Satyajit Ray, the legendary filmmaker from India, and the second is the beginning of the celebrations of Independence India at 75. Both are important, and therefore the presence at Cannes is really commendable, and we look forward to a very interactive and engaging engagement with the rest of the movie entertainment media around the world.
The English language work Annette will open the Cannes Film Festival. Apart from Annette, this year's lineup will have 24 titles competing for Palme d'Or and 12 in A Certain Regard. A new category, Cannes Premiere, will include 7 movies. The re-emergence of Cannes will plug a vital gap in the film industry ecosystem, which has been left in tatters by the pandemic. Bureau Report, DD India.
And for more on that story, I'm joined by my colleague Rukma Datta. Rukma, give us a sense of what could we see at the India Pavilion?
Right. As you just mentioned, India will be participating virtually. The virtual India Pavilion will be inaugurated today by the Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting. And it will be focusing on 4 main aspects, as you mentioned, both by Dilip Shenoy and as well as in your report. Now, as far as individual representation of India is concerned, Cannes is known as a film festival, being one of the most prestigious. Another very important aspect of Cannes is that it promotes documentaries like perhaps no other film festival in the world. And in this context, India's Rahul Jain will be presenting a 70-minute documentary in the climate change section called Invisible Demons. This is one of the highlights of India's representations. And his documentary talks about the massive expansion, massive and indiscriminate, as he sees it, expansion of Delhi, and the impact that bad water, bad air, pollution in all its various aspects is having on the most vulnerable sections of this megacity's population. Also, another entry on India's part is Payal Papadia's A Night of Knowing, and this falls in the director's debut film category, and it talks about it is a change from India's previous entries, because mostly we had earlier we had in this section we had films like Gangs of Wasseypur, films mostly by Anurag Kashyap and so on. So her film is a documentary about the breakdown, a telling of how the society has changed, about the changes that are going on around. It's basically a documentation of how that happens. And then another important film is by Kolkata-based Suman Sen. It's called Eka, and it's which means solo. And it is also Cannes is a platform basically for inviting co-production of films, documentaries that are in the process of being shot. And there are many other films in this category, many other documentaries that are vying for the coveted $12,000 prize, as well as funding from other festivals and other filmmakers and other organizations around the world. Now, India falls into the red zone as far as COVID-19 is concerned, but India is supporting the film industries of the entire subcontinent in various ways. And that's why when we look at the NFDC projects that are up this year in the Cannes film market, we will find that there are films from Nepal, there are films from Bangladesh and so on. So the other NFDC projects in this year's Cannes film market are Prantik Basu's Dengue, Anjali Menon's Rasa, Nepalese filmmaker Pasang Dawa Sherpa's Kudhiro Parikosar, Paramita Dhan's Last Time on Earth, and Rishi Channa's Bhol, among others. So there's a lot as far as fare from the subcontinent is concerned, and once in 1988, that was a big moment for India when Meera Nair's Salam Bombay had won the award in the director's debut film category. So there are lots of hopes now on Indian film directors this time as well. Already, as you've said, the focus is on legendary filmmakers such as Satyajit Ray. So those looking for an Indian flavor in the Cannes Film Festival that comes back, with a bang, can we say, after the pandemic year, they will find a lot to savor and a lot to enjoy.
Okay, Rukma, also give us a sense of, apart from the India Pavilion, will it give, now that it's the festival is back, will it give, would they be able to resurrect the kind of grandeur and glamour that has always been associated with the Cannes Film Festival?
Yes, Cannes is always, I mean, as much as about films, it's also about the glamour. Cannes has always been about the glamour. And it's an invitation-only film festival, as you know. And it has always made a point of inviting the biggest names, the most glamorous people in the business from across the world. However, it has a sense now that it has to protect the environment as well. And that is why climate change is one aspect that it is focusing on. In fact, there are commentators who are saying that because of COVID protocols, Cannes will be able to fulfill, many of its climate protection targets this time around, because so many people will maybe not be invited. But the fact that it is back, for most European countries, for most Western countries which are not in the red zone, that gives hope to the entire industry as such. Because Cannes, as I told you, it finances also many films, many projects of filmmakers from other places where the funding is not so robust as it is in Europe or in the Americas.
Okay, and Rukma, the report that we talked about talked about how climate change is one of the issues that dominates this year's festival. Speak more about that.
Yes. Well, one specific example that came to mind, when that was highlighted, was that this time they are planning, in fact, Berlin Film Festival, another very prestigious film festival. It has substituted fish nets for recycled fish nets for the original PVC for the red carpet. And this time around, Cannes is also planning many such, like no use of plastic at all. These are, and reducing the putting aside some of the fees that visitors will be paying for climate change. So these are very small things that have come out right now. We'll be knowing more as the festival progresses.
Okay, and again, Rukma, let me then ask you, tell us more about the films, especially we understand 24 titles are competing for the Palme d'Or. Talk more about that.
Right. Many films are competing for the Palme d'Or. I told you about the Indian films in this category. Well, other films from across the world, but Annette, for example, and so on. Interestingly, Cannes is one film festival that has refused to recognize, Netflix. The importance of Netflix has been recognized. Netflix, films by Netflix have been awarded, by other film festivals. Cannes is special because it has refused to do so. It does not recognize web streaming and web films as part of the cinemascape. There are hopes that will change this time around. But when we talk about films will be coming in from all across the world. And although there were some who said, that there will be very few films that will be screened this time around, in fact, the opposite has happened, because many directors have postponed the screening of their films, the production of their films, because of the pandemic, and because they wanted to show it in multiplexes, because they wanted to show it to cinema goers in person.
Okay, and give us a sense of this film festival being opened. What could it mean for tourism in France, or the easing of restrictions of travel to Europe? Because Indians, the very fact that it's being virtually, the India Pavilion is being virtually inaugurated and virtually held, because Indians are still not allowed to travel to France.
Yes, as I said, the Indian subcontinent is in the red zone. So it will be a challenge for whether you are a scribe or whether you are, part of the industry, directors, anybody who wants to go there. It will be a challenge to visit France for the film festival in particular. Right now, there are so many restrictions. But when we talk about tourism, there are hopes that with the film festival, it will be revived, and things will return to normalcy. Although you do know, as WHO's Mike Ryan had said, that maybe countries are rushing too fast into going back into normality.
Okay, and given the situation of pandemic, though one understands that the number of infections is relatively low than France's national average. What particular measures have been put in place, Rukma, to see that pandemic, that COVID appropriate behavior is followed?
Right now, COVID appropriate behavior as far as France is concerned, as you just mentioned in your report already, wearing of masks and maintaining social distancing. The director says that he will not be greeting guests with the traditional, kissing on the cheek. These kind of perhaps yes, because they will be having. Specific numbers who can attend the various functions that are likely to be held. The basic guideline is that COVID appropriate behavior will continue to be in place.
All right, Rukma, many thanks for joining us, and we'll leave it there for the moment. You track today's development of the virtual inauguration by the INB Minister. We'll keep coming back to you through the day. Many thanks for joining us for the moment. And with that, it's time to close Midday Prime. That's it in the moment. But you remember to follow COVID appropriate behavior. Always wear the mask. I'm alone in the studio, therefore I wasn't wearing a mask. But wear the mask, and most importantly, do get vaccinated if you are eligible. If you are above 18 years of age, remember, following COVID appropriate behavior and getting vaccinated is the only way we can win this war over the pandemic. Take care and be safe. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.